Hello all, I'm Ghosty and welcome back to this video, and me, hello. We're diving back into the Upside Down, literally this time, because we're about to watch the finale of part 1 of season 4 of Stranger Things. Episode or chapter 7 of season 4 is right in front of me and I'm about to start it. So, this is the finale of part 1, and I'm really interested in it, and I've been loving it so far, so I'm going to dive right in and see what's up. And I'll be right back after I watch it. So, let's dive deep into this gateway, into another dimension, that is the Upside Down, and see how things plan out. I'll be back in a bit, and of course, obviously spoilers. So spoilers for Stranger Things, probably in its entirety for this season so far, and of course this episode. So, there's your warning, and I'll be back in a little bit. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and ghouls, wish me luck. Oh my god, what an episode and what a finale. Alright, this is going to be a damn long video, because I have so much to talk about and so much to share and just talk about. I don't even know where to begin and where to start for this. Holy shit. If you haven't seen this and just here for some reason, go watch the episode first. Go watch the show first and come back. I did not want any of this spoiled for anyone. Jesus. This is going to be a really long video. I guess I'll do chronologically, or I'll just do what I normally do and talk about certain things and then get more into detail about that certain thing. But holy shit. One of the best episodes, I think. Especially story-wise. Holy shit. What a good ending. And it's not even over yet, because we still have part 2 to get over and go over in July, whenever that drops. Oh, it's going to be a month-long wait. It's going to feel like a decade. I can already tell. Ugh. Jesus. Alright, there's so much to talk about. Honestly, I might just talk about my thoughts in this video, and then talk about like what I think is going to happen in a different video. Or maybe, I don't know. Or maybe like a breakdown sort of thing. I'm not sure. But for now, let's just talk about it, and let's start somewhere. Not sure where, but somewhere. Let's pick off from where we left off in the last video, and what I was talking about. Literally the most minor thing in this episode that I was worried about was Steve, and he ended up fine. Everyone's kicking his ass in this episode, from Robin to Eddie to Murray to Hopper. Everyone's kicking some ass, and I love it. Including a character we'll get into later, because that's like the biggest part of this episode, but there's so much to talk about. Holy shit. Yeah, Steve's fine, and they help him out, and he's fine by the end of it, or by the start of the episode, we see he's fine. They fight the bats off, and yeah. The police are still investigating and like interrogating the kids, because they're trying to find out where Eddie is, because he's still the main suspect, even though he's in a whole different dimension, this entire episode, almost. But they have that, whatever is going on, and then we have Steve, Nancy, Robin, and Eddie back in the Upside Down, and they're doing their deal. And whatever, and then there's so much in this episode that has Nancy and Steve come together, like I've been saying, and they keep hinting at it, and they keep showing their connection, and it's still there. They're still in love with each other, and it's gonna happen, and I'm just waiting for it. And honestly, with the end of this episode, I think it's going to happen next part, and obviously it's gonna have to. It's gonna have to come to life and show it off. And speaking of their connection, I'm gonna bring up Jonathan real quick, because I don't think they even showed up in this episode. They might have once or twice maybe, but now that I'm thinking about it, they really did not show up. And they didn't really need to. Because their whole story is trying to find out where Eleven is, and that kind of continues with the government, and them interrogating the police officer, which I didn't even talk about. But they know where Eleven is basically now. It doesn't show up in this episode, but it's probably going to come up in the next part. And that facility in Nevada that Eleven's at, the government's probably going to head over there, and same with Mike, and Stoner Dude, and Jonathan, and Will. They're probably going to head over there as well. Maybe. Government, definitely. Or at least they're going to get there like around when 11 is trying to leave, or something along the lines. A lot of crazy shit happened, and a lot of crazy shit is going to happen in the next part, and, whew, Jesus. But yeah, they touch on that a lot in this episode. Just Steven and Nancy I don't know why I keep calling him Steven. Just Steve and Nancy coming together and just like realizing that they have feelings for each other. And Eddie even mentions it in this episode. He like talks to Steve about it, and the whole like his opinion on Steve overall, and how like they basically save each other's ass at this point, and they could be friends. Same with Robin and Nancy. They didn't touch on it too much in this episode, but beforehand in the other episodes and the one before this, Robin and Nancy get a lot closer, and they literally call each other friends. So it's nice to see that. It's always wholesome. I always love the wholesome stuff. So yeah, that happens, and they just touch on that a lot in this episode, and you can tell the connection's still there, and they even give each other that look. And my God, Nancy's look that she gives Steven, not even going to mention that. But then it goes over to Hopper and Antonio. I still don't think that's his name. I still don't know. The friendly guard that was corrupt, but now he's locked up with Hopper. And I'm gonna just cut to the point. The Demogorgon is released a little after, and then it completely messes up everyone. It's no surprise. It's always good seeing Demogorgon because that was like the original creature. That's our original monster and antagonist. So it's always good seeing one of them things. And now we see that it grew and gotten obviously stronger and bigger. But it fucks up everyone. Literally, no one stands a chance besides Hopper because he's the only one with experience with this thing and actually knows its weakness, fortunately. Or else they would have been monster food too. But he holds his own. Hopper's a badass. He has been this entire season, and he holds his own. And the entire time while this is going on, we have Joyce and Murray and Yuri, which Murray acts like Yuri the entire episode, trying to because the plan was they're going to sneak in, he's going to act as Yuri, and Yuri is going to dress up and act as Murray. Well, I mean, he didn't really have a shot or a chance, to honestly, because he was bounded up, and he couldn't talk, so... But yeah, Mary was just doing a Yuri impression the entire episode, and I enjoyed every second of it. It was awesome. It was so enjoyable, and it was funny. It was great. The writing in this episode and this entire season so far, I think, has been done amazingly, and it might be my favorite season. But again, I don't have much memory of the other seasons. Maybe I need to do what 11's doing and revisit it and rewatch it over again. So maybe I will afterwards. I don't know. At least gonna wait for part 2 for that at least. But Mary's doing that thing with his Yuri impression the entire episode, and it's awesome. But then a little later, once they actually get released and everything goes well, we see Hopper rejoice with Joyce for the first time in a long while, and it is one of the most wholesome moments, which could make a grown man cry, and it literally does. Well, actually, I don't know if Hopper cries or not, but it gives off that vibe, and I was waiting to see it. Both Joyce and Hopper both deserve happiness, and they deserved this moment, and deserve to finally see each other again. And after all they've been through, they can finally be together again. I'm not sure how they're going to get out of this Russian gulag, because they're kind of in deep shit now, especially with the Demogorgon on the loose now, and Demogorgon can probably easily get out of there and just climb out. But they're together again, and I'm pretty sure that's the last we see of them in this episode, because everything else focuses on the rest of the cast and the rest of the characters. But it's just such a good moment, and it's so wholesome, and you love to see it. That's all it is. And of course, we love to see it when the story progresses and everything progresses. And now 11. Obviously, if you're watching this, you know there's a huge thing with 11 that I'm not going to talk about just yet. I'm going to wait to the end to talk about that. But we see her story progress, and her revisiting these memories, and her seeing these for the first time, and actually is able to remember them now because she's revisiting them and her old experiences. While it's also she's learning about them again, while we're learning about it with her. So it's a good experience, and we get her perspective of pretty much everything, and what's actually happening in this lab from all this while back. And obviously, I was right. Dr. Brenner was his name. So Brenner, Dr. Brenner, whatever you want to call him, Papa even, whatever. He messes up these kids. We already know he doesn't play around, and he doesn't play at all, and he doesn't mess around whatsoever. It's all about business, and it's all about his wants and desires, and it's made clear in this episode. And he messes up number 2, I'm pretty sure it was, and the students that were bullying 11, and that just happens. And then we get to the scene with Steven and Eddie talking again, and they're talking about basically just their opinions on each other and about Dustin. Steve's even like, "Oh, Dustin thinks I'm a badass and whatnot." It's always cool seeing Steve like notice something like good said about him, and he actually like takes it in. And he's like, "Oh, a compliment! I got a compliment from someone," and it's, I don't know, it's just wholesome. It's just nice. It's relatable too. Guy gets a compliment and he holds it high forever. I can say the same. And then a little after that, we get that scene I was talking about with Eddie talking to Steve about him and Nancy's situation, and it's pushed even further. And Steve like basically realizes it, and Eddie like gives him the gist, like she's still in love with you, and he literally says something like, "I've never seen true love in these cynical eyes such as that," or something like along them lines, which was great. And I don't know, it was a good line. But yeah, they keep bringing it up and they keep pushing it, and I noticed it like far early on that was gonna happen, and I've been waiting for it, and they delve even deeper in it. And now with the event of the towards the end of the episode, they're definitely gonna bring more about it in the next part. So excited to see it. Also, props to Eddie for grabbing onto Robin real quickly when like the Upside Down has like an earthquake or whatever. When they're I don't know how it is, but they say it in the episode to explain for all the viewers that like, don't understand. But like the Upside Down and like Vecna is like one all hive mind. It's all connected to as one being, and it all is one being and one entity. So I guess they have like a tantrum or whatever. Vecna, whatever happens, it has like an earthquake kind of thing, and everything violently shakes. Steve grabs Nancy, which obviously I had admired. I was like, "Aw," kind of thing. But then we see Eddie like grab Robin real quick and like hold her safe, which you just gotta appreciate it. And yeah, that's it. And then next after that, we finally see one of the characters. In this case, is Dustin, that I've been saying, and I kind of did connect the dots and whatnot. Well, they did last episode, but now they get even to more like detail about it. And Dustin goes on about how Vecna is like attacking and killing certain targets and certain people, and like everything's been going on. There has to be reasoning behind it and what's actually occurring, and how they actually take down Vecna in the first place, along with how to actually like reach Vecna in the first place. So, and at this point, they're like unaware of Steve and them in the Upside Down. So, but Dustin brings up a good point about how 11 before in like the previous seasons, she's opened up like the portal to the Upside Down or whatever through her powers, which is like psychic contact, he says, and that Vecna is doing the same thing, and it has the same effect. So, this psychic contact and this ability actually also opens up portals and opens up gateways between the real world and the Upside Down, and they quickly figure it out together. Also, with the help of Lucas's sister, Erica, I think her name was, which she's like a even bigger like part of this now because she's actually involved because they had to tell her. But yeah, Dustin basically figures it out, and that the powers of 11 and Vecna, like this psychic contact sort of ability power that they have, also opens up the gateways between the real world and the Upside Down. So they put it together that the gateways and these attacks also open up these portals, and the direct like location of the psychic contact that's like ongoing opens up the portal and gateway between the world and the Upside Down, which is really quick thinking on Dustin's part, and props to him. And also with this and pretty much everything else in this episode, so I don't have to repeat myself over and over again, like I said in previous videos, they connect everything so well. It is so well written, I think, but everything is connected, and everything makes sense. It all fits together like a puzzle, and literally everything connects, and it's so well done. And then they realize that like Vecna isn't even like the main like problem. The Mind Flayer is still like this. At least I think so, but it seems like Vecna is still like a pretty big antagonist, or maybe even the final antagonist. But they make it sound like the Mind Flayer is still like the Dark Lord and like the big boss behind it all, and Vecna is like the one under him, and then Demogorgons are like the minions kind of thing. That's how they word it basically. So we got to see how it works, how it like plans out and works out. But for now, at least we're still with Vecna, and Vecna is still most definitely the main antagonist. But then we pick up back with Nancy, Steve, Robin, and Eddie, and they basically wanted to get guns in Nancy's house, and then they go there into the Wheeler house, and they find out that the Upside Down is still connected, which again, it's all connected. But the Upside Down was actually birthed, and like all this that is familiar with them has been stuck in place from 1983, I think it was, or something like something near there. I don't know. The time doesn't really, like the year doesn't really matter. Well, it does, but I'm about to explain it anyways, so it doesn't really matter for me talking about it. But everything in the Upside Down that they're familiar with is stuck in time from the date that Will got like frozen, or when Will was in the Upside Down and got taken in by the Upside Down and all this strange shit. So all this, that stuff that they're familiar with in the Upside Down is stuck in time and frozen in time from the events when it took place during season 1, when Will was first taken in. So that's pretty interesting, and we're kind of learning how the Upside Down works even more now, a lot more thanks to this episode. And we already knew stuff with a hive mind, but now we know it's stuck in time. So it could be used for more things. I won't be surprised if they use it again in this like specific kind of setting. But there's also that, like, just for this episode, it could be used because they get the bikes and it's like the guns aren't there and whatnot, so they do it. And then it even pushes the stuff with Nancy further, because later in the episode it shows up with Barbara, I think her name was, her old friend, and then Ben. But then, like, where we're at now in the episode, when they're first arriving at Nancy's house, they have to look at she looks at the index cards that she had, and it even pushes the further connection with Nancy and Steve. So yeah, it's all there. But since they are at the Wheeler house in the Upside Down, in the real world, the Wheeler house is also occupied by all the people and parents, like the police officers and the kids, of course. And the kids end up going into the same room that our other friends are in the Upside Down version of the house. So they're in the same room, just different dimensions. And then we actually see them come in contact with each other because they could hear Dustin's voice from the Upside Down. But then they quickly get the idea that they're in the same room as Dustin and them are in the real world. And they actually use the lights to their advantage and speak to Dustin and them. And they speak to Dustin, Lucas, and Erica through the lights and from the Upside Down, which is really cool. And it's awesome to see. And I don't know, it's just actually seeing it happen and occur and seeing both sides from the real world and the Upside Down is so surreal, and it's just a really cool scene. I loved it, and I love seeing them like so fascinated over it, and just seeing them able to cooperate with each other and speak to each other from the other side is a really neat and like fascinating thing to see, and especially see it happen. They got the idea quickly because of what happened with Will again. Will's a big factor in this because of his past experiences and everything that happened in season 1. The only thing I'm still missing from season 1 to come back is Steve with a bat. Doesn't happen yet, but that's alright. I've been mentioning that, so I'm going to keep mentioning that until it happens. But it's looking like it's going to be in the next part. Not anytime soon. But then shortly after that, they go into Nancy's room, or some kind of bedroom upstairs, and they take like this like light pad thing, which isn't actually there in the Upside Down, which is interesting because it actually does like keep that thing that it's like frozen in time in effect. Like the fact that it's frozen in time from all the way back when Will was captured, it still keeps that in play. But they can still play with the lights because like the spark and like there's like light and particles there, and like that swirly like kind of, I don't even know what to call it. There's like this just like swirly particles in the air that it's actually pretty visible around lights and such that they could see and they could tamper with, and that's how they connect to the real world, and that's how they like speak to Dustin and them from the Upside Down. And it's really fascinating, like I said. They talk about it with the lights, and they can actually spell things out and whatnot, and it's just really cool. Again, just like how Will did in season 1 with the Christmas lights. It was really interesting, and it's really cool to see it from both sides and then cooperate with each other and actually speak to each other and seeing both sides of it, like I said. And then once they get like the hang of things, and once they speak to each other and get this point across to each other and what actually has to go down for them to get out of that Upside Down, it happens later on in the episode after a bunch of shit happens. But it's a really cool shot that I want to point out before I forget, of Dustin and them riding away on bikes, and it like transitions to Steve, Nancy, Robin, and Eddie also on bikes, but in the Upside Down. And it's a really cool transition that I noticed, and it's just a really cool scene. It's just really neat. I love how they have these like connections and parallels between dimensions, like from the real world and the upside down. So many connections and so many parallels, just like I said. And I love how it's done. They do it phenomenally well in this, I think. And it's just so well done, and I have to give it props for them. That's not the right word, is it? Not the right wording. I meant I had to give them props for that. Yeah. It's something I had to mention. It's just so cool and really well done. And then we get another look at this blonde fellow in the lab from Eleven's memories. That, if you've seen the episode, you're here listening to me now, so you don't mind spoilers. But for now, we'll just call him number 1. That's what he's revealed to be in this episode, and we'll get into more of that later. But we know that he's helping Eleven out, and he's trying to let her escape, because, I mean, if you've seen the episode, you know why. And because, well, he thinks she's not alone, and that she's not so different like she thinks she is. And he's on the same, like, wavelength that she is. Not really, but that's what he thinks, and that's what he sees. And she shouldn't be treated the way she's been being treated by this place, and they both want to escape and get out of here. So it ends up like that, and he ends up helping her out. So we see that, and I actually do enjoy him a lot more. And I said he was annoying before. That was mostly because of just him saying the same phrase over and over again, whatever episode that was in. But pretty much, obviously, a lot of stuff happens with him that we'll get into later. But let's keep going chronologically in the episode. So let's go to the next scene. Actually, never mind. I kind of talked about the stuff in between already. So we'll keep talking about 11 and number 1. So they try to escape, and it goes haywire, and Jesse pulls the tracking device, or whatever kind of device that's plugged into his neck. She pulls out, and this is when it's revealed that he's number 1, which I didn't actually guess. I guessed a lot of stuff, and I predicted a lot of stuff before going into the next episodes, just across this entire season so far. And this is something I probably should have expected, or I could have definitely, but I did not. I did not see this coming. For some reason, I did not. But then it's revealed, it goes haywire, as we saw, and then they had to escape, and they had to come back up, like, into the actual, like, what rooms and Rainbow Room and labs. So everything gets all bloody and gory because we see him murk literally everyone. Has these powers, and he's had these powers since he's number 1, but he hasn't been able to use them because he's no longer an experiment or a lab rat. It's more of him being stuck in this place. As he says, he's a prisoner, and he has to work for Brenner and just do his every bidding because of the control and power that Brenner has over him. But we see, supernaturally wise, not like authority wise, supernatural wise, obviously number 1 is pretty damn powerful. He was the first one that had these powers, and you know what, it's a spoiler talk, I don't need to wait to get into it. He was Victor Creel's son, which I didn't expect that either. Of all things, I kind of am glad that I didn't guess. This was one of them. I'm glad I didn't predict this because I would have saw it coming, and it happened, and I was fully indulged in it, and I was paying attention to every second of it. But he was Victor Creel's son, and basically the entire world looked at him differently, and he always felt like an outcast, and that his mindset and his beliefs were just, and that's it. He thought his beliefs and his thoughts were just, and it was fine and how it was. And he believes in everything that he believes in and thinks, and he thinks he's in the right for all of it. So he thinks everyone else besides him is broken and needs fixing, basically. But then when he sees 11 and he decides to help her out, that's why he decides to help her out in the first place. Because he thinks that she's on the same wavelength, and he thinks that she can help him create this new world kind of thing and take out everyone that deserves it, basically, and everyone that he thinks is worthy of being redeemed broken. So it's revealed that he's been number 1 and all that stuff, but yeah, he's pretty damn powerful. We even see later on that he is actually the one behind this whole scheme and behind the strange and stranger things, and that this character, number 1, is Vecna, which we'll get later into. But yeah, he basically wants 11 to work with him and to escape this place and create this new world kind of thing where them two rule it, basically, and that he can do whatever he pleases with no rules and his own rules kind of thing, and create his own world with 11 by his side, because they're powerful, and he thinks that she's also powerful, and it's pretty noticeable He even pointed out that Brenner and the rest of the kids are scared of 11 because they're all aware of how powerful she is, and that she holds this power beyond everyone else in this like facility and in this lab that has these abilities. 11's much more powerful, and he notices this, and that's why in the first place that he tries to get her on his side in the first place. And honestly, I'm really shocked that I didn't guess this when he was helping her out in the first, to begin with, because when the name number 1 first came up, obviously it was going to mean something of importance. I didn't know it was going to turn out to be this Vecna, surprisingly, even though I've been right all this time. I didn't expect or predict the one thing I should have, but I'm glad I didn't, because again, I was fully I didn't expect it whatsoever, and I was fully like interested in it, and my eyes were glued to the screen every second of this episode. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty much touched everything I wanted to, I think. All besides the stuff I want to talk about this and the ending of the episode, but I pretty much talked about everything else besides this whole situation. So yeah, let's focus on this for the remaining of the video. But obviously the scenes cut here and there, and besides 11's memories that we're like visiting or revisiting, or for us it's the first time. For her, she's revisiting the memories that she like locked away. But we come back to the gang of kids and whatnot, and they both went to the trailer because they all put it together and they pieced it together, and they talked to each other and spoke to each other about this like theory that they had about how Vecna's like psychic attacks make gateways between the real world and the upside down, and they were right about it. They all go to the trailer. Our one gang goes to the trailer in the real world, and the other goes to the trailer in the upside down, which they were really lucky that the trailer was even there in the upside down, because again, it's like frozen in time in like years back. So, but it does work, and then they have this mattress there for everyone to come out and fall onto, and they have this sheet for them to climb into, since I guess it is upside down, and they actually have to climb into it since the gravity's weird on both sides. But if you've seen it, you know how it goes. So yeah, but it all happens like really fast, and they all do it, and they all go ahead, and actually it's not really that fast. I don't know why I said that, but regardless, they go through it, and it happens. And then, of course, Nancy tries to go through it, as we saw, and it does not work quite well for her. Nancy, we see her go through it, and then all of a sudden she falls through, and it's all black. She falls into like this abyss, all darkness, and I was so confused because I didn't know what was going on. And then it's revealed that she's getting hit by Vecna. I was like, holy shit. And she's actually in this trance. And the episode leaves off with that for her, and we don't know anything else about that. We don't see anyone's reaction to it besides Steve's. We don't see what happens, like what else happens besides what we see with Nancy, and she's left in this trance, which brings up a lot, because we don't know what's going to happen with Nancy. We don't know how Vecna is attacking her. Well, I'm guessing Vecna can attack and go after anyone he wants. So that fact is there. But also she has been dealing with stuff, some negative like emotions with Jonathan, and now she's probably confused whether she wants Jonathan or Steve, thanks to the obvious pointers that they're giving us, like I've been mentioning. But we don't know what's going to happen to her. I'm hoping for the best, obviously. Like I said, I don't want anyone dying. I didn't think anyone was going to die in this episode, and no one did, thankfully. Besides, all the kids in 11's like flashback, thanks to number 1, or Vecna in this case. But for Nancy, we don't know what's happening, and we don't know what it leaves off on, because it ends in a trance, and we don't see her again. So we're gonna have to actually wait for part 2 to actually see what happens with her and everything else. So it's just that. I don't think she's gonna die necessarily, but again, anything could happen. Like, I don't want to say it, but we can't rule anything out, especially since the series is getting closer to its conclusion and its actual finale, and like its actual legitimate conclusion. We don't know what can happen, so we gotta see it. And this actually does open up a lot, because besides the stuff with 11 and Vecna and like number 1, we see in Nancy's vision, like while she's in the trance of dealing with Vecna herself, she's in that like home world of Vecna, in that like dimension, like the main base of the Upside Down that Vecna is like in all the time. that we saw Max encounter when she was in her trance. But we see Barbara, Nancy's old friend that died from a Demogorgon, or from the Upside Down, whatever happened with that. She died like seasons back, and we see her in this. And Vecna's basically blaming Nancy's for Barbara's death and what happened with her and everything that's been going on with Nancy. So this opens up a lot because, well, now we know Vecna's been going and doing this for a while. It knew about Barbara and even said that it killed Barbara, so it wasn't even a Demogorgon. Apparently it was Vecna. So Vecna's been around for a long time. And it looks like in the ending scene with 11 and Vecna, or number 1 turned into Vecna, it seems like that Vecna was the start and the original cause of the Upside Down in the first place. Thanks to that commotion with Vecna, or number 1 and 11, the Upside Down was born because of this event. Or maybe, I'm not sure. But at least that's how Vecna was born. So it turns out that Vecna was actually the cause of Barbara's death. So this tells us that Vecna's been around for a while now. Vecna might have been even around for the start, and all of this since the start of the season might have been Vecna's doing, or the Mind Flayer's doing, or whatever. But it seems like it is Vecna's doing, and the Demogorgons were just like Destin says, they were their minions that is doing their bidding. So we don't know what's happening, and we don't know everything because it's not confirmed. But Vecna could have been the one to make Will vanish in the first place and take out Will, but we're not sure, and we're not sure of his motives fully yet. Of why, if he did take out Will, or why he killed Barbara, and why he's doing all this to Nancy and whatnot. So we'll see whether he's trying to kill Nancy or not in this scene. I'm not sure, but again, she has been dealing with stuff. So if he wants to kill Nancy, he has kind of every right to do so, because that's the thing with his victims, is that they've all had to deal with negative stuff in their lives currently when he kills them to actually take them out. And he's actually kept this moral code kind of thing. He's kept this rule that he's been going on for a while now with his victims. So he could definitely kill Nancy. Hopefully not, but we'll have to see it. And yeah, Vecna could have been around since the very beginning, and could have caused the vanishing of Will and Barbara's death, like he said. He literally admitted to Barbara's death. So he could have been around for a while. And I think he's been around since the start of it. And it's going to be revealed and confirmed to us in the next part. And I do think he did cause Will's vanishing in the very first season. And where this all started was maybe Vecna's doing. We gotta see. But I don't think Nancy's going to die. I do think, if I'm going to predict it and try to think of what's going to happen, we already know what the weakness is and how to counter Vecna's attack, which is music. And I think that it's going to go down something along the lines of Max either giving her headphones up to Nancy, which, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe Vecna can even attack Max again, if that is the case, because Max won't have the music to play to actually help her own. But for Nancy's case, and just for Nancy in general, Max can give her headphones over. Or I think, thanks to Steve's and Nancy's past and their relationship back then, maybe Steve will know her favorite song or something like that and actually sing it out loud to actually in desperate help, trying to desperately help Nancy come back and out of the trance. Not sure how it's going to go down, obviously. No confirmation and no second part to watch yet. Hoping to see it soon. Obviously, we gotta wait till July. Hopefully it goes by fast, but we never know. But I do think something's going to go down like that Steven has to actually sing Nancy's favorite song or play it for Nancy to actually get her out of the trance. Cause I don't think she's going to die unless they absolutely turn it around for the opposite for us. We got to see. But for now, obviously nothing's confirmed and we're not sure. But now back to Mr. Number 1, aka Vecna. We know now that it was Victor Creel's son, and he's had these powers for a while now. And again, everything connects. When they were in Victor Creel's house, they had this vent full of glass, jars full of spiders and old, really dusty, kind of displays for these spiders. And now we know it was Vecna, or Number 1, that was actually Victor Creel's son to begin with. And where this all started was Victor Creel's house. So it also connects in that way, and it makes sense that Vecna is even in the Creel house to begin with, because that's where his Vecna's been hiding out at in the Upside Down, in the attic of Victor Creel's house, because that also makes sense now, since that where he was doing his acts and these awful things that he was doing while he was a child. He was using these abilities in the attic, and now he's again in the attic as Vecna in the Upside Down, which is pretty fitting because it's all happening where it all began, kind of thing, calling back to Vecna's past and his childhood as the son of Victor Creel before he turned to Vecna, and even with stuff in this episode with calling back to Will and season 1, the Demogorgon even. A lot of stuff's calling back, and that's exactly what I expected, and I think it's all done very well. And don't count it out yet. I bet it's going to continue happening, but I don't mind it. Obviously, like I said, I love it, and I want to see more of it. But we learn that Vecna is the son of Victor Creel, like I said, and the episode tells us, it's pretty straightforward with us, so no one gets confused. It's a confirmation that Vecna is number 1, and is this guy that killed all these kids and killed all these people in the laboratory that 11 has to watch helplessly. And he talks about everything and just life in general to 11 and why he's helping her and his visions and his thoughts and how he's been held captive and that the world is broken and it needs fixing, and he's going to be the one to do exactly that, and he's going to be the one with trying to get 11 to aid him in this mission that he has, trying to get 11 to help him. He wants to change the world for the better in his case, or in his twisted mind, his own better version of the world. Without all these people that follow these rules and live by their everyday lives over and over and over again, nothing new, nothing old, the same old stuff, nothing new whatsoever, nothing different. They all live the same boring lives as he says, which is, he kind of has a point, not in a psychopathic way, but everyone does kind of wake up, go to work, sleep, repeat, kind of thing. And, well, he holds a point, but obviously in a very twisted way, and he's probably not doing the right thing, because he's taking action by doing it, and he murders literally everyone in here. So if this statement wasn't already, present, if this fact wasn't already aware of everyone, Vecna is a force to be reckoned with. He truly is. He's powerful, and he's intimidating, and he's scary. Not only as Vecna, but as number 1. You could tell he means everything he says, and he means it in the most genuine way possible. And he's a very good antagonist, I will say. I really enjoy him. But again, a lot of questions are brought up. He's been around this entire time now. And I think he did cause the vanishing of Will Byers to begin with. And it dates back all the way to season 1, where it all began because of Vecna and these events that take place in this laboratory of this memory that we're revisiting with 11. Which again, I said, it all connects. But he just truly wants to change the world for the better. He kind of has a god complex sort of thing. He kind of wants to be a god. He wants to change the world for his own better version of it and his own visions, and he wants to enact and take action for exactly that. And he wants to change the world with 11, since she is powerful, and he thought she saw the world the same way, and how he noticed how she was outcasted and everything like that, and he takes her in to try to have her aid him in this mission of changing the world and making it a better place in his eyes, and taking out everyone that's broken and that everyone needs fixing, to change into a better world in his eyes and make this vision that he has come to fruition. And then of course they had this showdown where 11 disagrees, and then they had this mind battle, I don't know, they had this psyche off, this psyche showdown, because they're both trying to use their powers, and they're both getting to the maximum full power they can do. And also we even see him kill people, how Vecna has been doing in the present times, in the real world, bringing them up, snapping them and popping their eyes out and all that. And it really all doesn't really connect, because even with Creel's family, we see him as a child killing his family, and it's the same way, and it's just so well done. But we see this psyche off with 11 and number 1, soon to be Vecna, and 11 actually does end up overpowering him, and I don't know how it works, but she basically just absolutely fucking disintegrates him. He breaks up into different particles, and she's forcing her powers onto the wall. But she has opened up this portal before with her abilities. So I think her abilities do have some connection to the Upside Down. And maybe that's the origin of these abilities. And it's like supernatural shit that goes on. It's all because of this. I'm not sure. But she opened up a portal. I'm not sure if she creates a portal or it just happened because of their powers. But it seems like she creates a portal. Or maybe he creates a portal. I'm not sure. But regardless, she's using the power and she's basically up killing him. She's like... Or maybe she's banishing him, actually. Because the portal opens... Either he opens the portal himself to escape and get out of there. And he created this Upside Down. And created this world of for himself to actually get out of there, out of that situation. Or she creates it to banish him to somewhere else. Somewhere far beyond this like real world. As far away as possible from like the Earth and sea. Because 11, obviously he's a force to be reckoned with, like I said, and she's aware that he is like fear incarnate, and he is definitely a threat. So maybe she either makes this world and opens this portal to banish him, or he just opens it to escape. I'm not sure, but it does kind of seem like 11 does it to just get rid of him, kind of thing. And then we see this like world that he's in. I'm not sure. I don't think it's the Upside Down yet. It doesn't seem much like the Upside Down yet, fully, but it quickly takes effects, and he turns to what we know as Vecna, and it even confirms it with the tattoo on his arm that says number 1. For everyone that doesn't really fully understand it, it gives us a dead giveaway and confirms that he is like for sure Vecna. So we have all that happen, and so many questions and so many things are brought up from this. I already talked about some things, but like I think she does spawn the portal to begin with, and like the gateway, and she puts them in this upside down, or it looks like just this like red misty area, and this like random place that he might turn, that maybe he turns into what is the idea that we know of the Upside Down. Maybe he turns into that, but regardless, it already has some like really like evil effects like in that place wherever it's at, and we see that he turns into the Vecna that we know of now. So it's just a lot of information and a lot of stuff that happens story-wise and the show-wise, current times-wise, and just a lot of stuff is happening at once. And we get a lot of story and everything within these few good scenes. Which, by the way, they are really good scenes. Again, I think this season might be my favorite so far. I'm not sure. But I will say I gotta give props to the actor for number 1, or Mr. or Creel Jr., whatever his name is, or number 1. Regardless, you know who I'm talking about. The actor deserves props for this like performance. He does really well. The acting for everyone is really damn well in this, and especially in this episode, and episode 4, for sure. Let's get back on this. A lot of like I said, I pretty much talked about it already, but like a lot of shit is opened up now, and we basically know that number 1 is Vecna. 11 knows who Vecna is now and knows how to take Vecna out. At least I think, maybe. She's done it once, but it wasn't fully Vecna yet. But now, like, she knows and she remembers Vecna. She knows this being and this entity incarnate. She remembers it. She remembers everything. So she's about to come back like real strong. And like I said already, it brings up a lot of questions. Like, has Vecna been here since the very beginning? Is Vecna the one that took away Will Byers? And that's where it all started. It's also very fitting. Again, it all connects. I can't stop bringing it up because it just does. But again, it all is very fitting because it's like very poetic because it's ending, or like these big things are happening and ending where it all began, kind of thing. It's just very poetic and very like meaningful, which I had to shed light on. It's just a thing I had to mention. But yeah, it opens up a lot of things and it asks a lot of questions. Going forwards, though, there's a lot of stuff to expect from part 2. A lot of stuff we still got to see what happens with Joyce and Hopper and Mary and them, because we don't see Joyce and Mary and Hopper after Joyce and Hopper reunite and see them. And it's good to see them. They still have to deal with the Demogorgon. We still have to see Mike, John, and Will and the Stoner Dude. And then, of course, we have to see what happens with 11 in the lab and her reaction to seeing that. Because I already could tell she's going to be pissed. And all she has to do is think about that one memory. If she has to reunite her powers with like a negative like memory, she only has to do that. We still don't know why for sure that Vecna is killing the targets that he's killing. Maybe he did say that he's wanting to fix this world and wanting to fix the people that are broken. So maybe, because he does say how people are living like everyday lives, the same thing, the same routine over and over again. So maybe his beliefs is that he's taking out the people, because remember, he does think what he's doing is right and it's justifiable no matter what he's doing. Psychic link, whatever he's doing, using the tentacles, whatever he does, whatever he's doing to do his like heinous acts, he believes he's right and he believes that he's in the right. But from what I can assume and guess, I think that it's the case of him thinking all these people that are doing the same routine thing and the same things every day over and over again and are dealing with these negative effects but not taking action and not doing anything about it and just moping around all day and doing the same exact thing and the same routine and doing the same thing over and over again without trying to help themselves or anything else around them is what drives them to deserve death, if that makes sense. Like, in his mind, maybe, I'm just assuming and theorizing, in his mind, these people are doing the same thing over and over again, and they're dealing with these very like traumatic and depressing like experiences, but they're not doing anything about it. They're doing little to nothing about it and doing the same routine over and over again without touching on it and trying to change their ways whatsoever. So he thinks that instead of like them doing something about it, because they're not going to do anything about it, and they're going to be living the same routine over and over again, and they're not going to do anything about the suffering that they're doing, he's going to do it and end that suffering for them, and that's how and why he kills them off. That's just my assumption though, and I'm just theorizing. So I'm not even sure if that makes sense. Like, they're all suffering, his victims are all suffering, and they won't do anything about it. So Vecna in charge, he does what they won't do and does something about it, but his way of doing it is obviously very unfortunate, and he kills them to end the suffering since they won't do anything about it. And I think that's what I got from this. At least I'm trying to piece it together and trying to make it make sense. So I think that's what I got from it, and I think that's probably pretty credible. I think that's actually a pretty good assumption, if I do say so myself. And I know I'm not saying it because I'm the one saying it. I think that could be the reason why and how it plans out. But again, we need to see what happens with Joyce and Hopper and Mary, and what happens with Mike and them, Susie. Maybe Susie will come, I'm not sure. But we need to see what happens with Nancy, of course. We don't know what's going to happen with Nancy. She could end up being dead. I don't think it's going to happen. But speaking of death, I do think a major character death will happen. And it's going to hit hard. In part 2, episode 2, probably, I think a big character death is going to happen. And it's going to leave probably a cliffhanger or something along those lines. But I'm not sure. This is kind of a cliffhanger because, well, of Nancy and everything with Vecna. And we don't have anything besides, like, anything else. Well, we don't have anything to begin with after this episode. We have to wait for part 2. But I do think part 2 is going to end in a very big character death. I'm not sure who it's going to be. It could be Hopper, but I don't think it's going to be Hopper because of, well, that whole thing that already happened with him. I would say Max, but not going to happen with Max. It could be any of the 4 boys. Maybe even Lucas. Or, honestly, maybe even Will, more likely, because he's become an outcast, and everything that's happened with him, and he might sacrifice himself to actually, like, play a part in it. And it also started with him, so maybe he'll want to enact and do his own actions to, like, say sorry to his friends for starting it all, and trying to sacrifice himself for the greater good and for his friends. I'm not sure. Anything can happen. But I do think the one character that's going to die, maybe not in season 4, maybe not in part 2, but definitely in season 5. I think it's going to be sad, but I think 11's going to have to die. Maybe not right now, maybe next part, I'm not sure. But then I'm not sure how she's going to come back if she does die. I'm not sure. But we're going to see that final confrontation between 11 and Vecna again. Obviously, they're going to remember each other thanks to this episode in the next part. So I'm really excited to see it. And I'm really excited to see where everything picks off and picks up from. Because a lot of shit remained unanswered. And we need to see confirmation. Again, like, I assume stuff and I theorize stuff, much like every other person does probably, but we don't have any confirmations and any certainties, so we had to see them unfold. But for now, we just have to wait for part 2. And yeah, I really do think that 11 is going to die. Sadly, yeah, but truthfully, yes. Also yes. Maybe not in part 2, but definitely in season 5. I think she's going to sacrifice herself for actually good, for like a season finale sort of thing. And just, I think that's how it's going to end. Maybe even in part 2. We'll have to see. But I do think a big character death is going to come up, and it's going to be sad, but we'll have to wait and see. But that was it. That was the finale of Stranger Things Season 4. Part 1, at least. Still gotta wait for part 2, and I'm really excited, and I'm really interested in it, and I cannot wait to see it and watch it this July. But that's the episode, and I think that pretty much sums up all of my thoughts. So, please inform me. Tell me what your theories, tell me what you thought, tell me your opinions. Please inform me. Tell me what you thought of this, because you just heard all of my thoughts about this episode and what I think is going to happen, and I want to hear yours. Yes, yours. So, please tell me, and if you don't want to miss future content and future Stranger Things stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, make sure you subscribe, like I said, like, comment, etc., etc., you know what I mean? Or maybe you'll get transported to Upside Down, and whatever happened to number 1, maybe it'll happen to you, sort of thing. Never mind, I'm just going to give up. But subscribe, like, comment, etc., etc., all that common YouTube stuff, you know what I'm talking about, and you know what I'm getting at. So, thank you again. I appreciate it greatly for you checking out this video and taking the time out of your day to watch this really long video. I know it's long, but that's how it is. So, thank you again, and I'll see you. This has been Ghosty, and I bid you all farewell.